Hello, it's Amy with Paper Moon Journals, and welcome to part 2 of our quad fold folio using Steampunk Spells as part of my collaboration with Project 39 mini albums and a whole host of other channels for her Trick and Treat Treasures collab. I have the hashtag in the description box so you can follow it. And then I also have links to all the other channels. And then there's a playlist that's been created as well. So you can just go click on the playlist and click play all, and it'll take you from one channel to another. It's a great way to find some new channels and some fun skills, tips, and tricks. I know I've learned some things. I like to go watch all the videos on the playlist myself. And but let's go ahead and get started with the part 2 of this project. We're going to decorate the quad fold. So we're going to use from Steampunk Spells, we need to cut this girl off for the front cover. From the top rim of her top hat, slightly cutting off those feathers. We want to go 6 inches, at least 6 inches across. So it's going to be a 6-inch square, I believe. Looks like 5 by 5.5 inches is what we're looking for here. We need it to be 5.5 inches tall and 5 inches wide. I'm going to save those scraps that I cut off, and I'll be using the B side of that later, with the exception of those postage stamps. We use those making the ATC cards in the week 1 project. So if you haven't seen that, it'd be great if you went and checked out the week 1. We made ATC tags, journaling cards, and regular tags, 2.5-inch wide tags. One of those tags we end up using in this project. I talked about it a lot in the first half of the video. Then I want to cut that black strip off the left-hand side, so I actually lined it up so that when I get it to size, I'll be cutting off that side as well. So I've cut my piece down for the cover. We want to ink up the edges. And then we'll also want to, mat the cover as well. It goes right there. And here's our piece to mat the cover. From Clockworks, 2 pieces that are 5 1/8 by 5 3/4, and one of them goes here. I forget to ink up the edges, and I come back and do it after it's glued down, which works okay. But if you wanted to ink up the edges, you'll want to do that before you glue these pieces down. I think it looks nice, and there's a lot of white edge on this since my paper cutter is kind of dull and just chomping through the paper. I'm using the bottom of my glue stick to burnish that down. And as I've said before, the glue stick won't ripple the paper the way wet glue would. It will stay flat. It might curl slightly, but it won't ripple and buckle. With the graphic 45 paper, you don't have to worry about it as much, but I get into the habit of doing certain things with glue stick and I'm still running out of glue. My Walmart order will still not show up for a couple days. I'm doing the voiceover for these, the editing on these videos all at once. Just like I just sat and did the filming all at once, but it was just too long to make one video. So I'll sit and I'll get both halves of the video ready today. It's going to be a long day for me. It's strange how much a half hour of footage can take 3 or 4 hours to produce into video content. I guess I could just leave it unedited and just throw it up there. But I've been unsuccessful with using various microphones during filming. We tried buying a Bluetooth one, and it says it's connected, but I can tell that it's not by the sound on the video. And then, I don't know. Technological things are a lot harder for me to figure out. Again, I said this in the other video, but like when it comes to encountering problems paper and crafting, my confidence is sky high in solving the problem. When it comes to technological problems, I just feel kind of mystified and out of my depth. And I'll forget how. Like sharing this video to the playlist. I did it once, but it was at least a month ago. because I was super ahead of the game on the first week's video, and I must have forgotten how I did it. Because I had to go, wait, it's not working. And then she answered back, and I was thinking, boy, that does sound familiar. I have to wait until the video's all done being produced and checked and HD quality adjusted. So here's another adjustment where I'll make a change to the written instructions. I had improved the original design after the fact, and while I remembered to go in and change all the score lines on that part of the instructions, I didn't have the foresight to think of all the other areas that would need changing and adjusting. So I'll just make note of that in pen here, and then I'll adjust the typed up one, and I'll make the typed up one available in my Etsy shop for just a few dollars. It makes it a lot easier. You can print it out every time you want to do the project, and you don't have to write it down and then try to read your handwritten notes. But if money's really tight for you, you can still totally make this, as I'll put all the measurements up on the screen. The trick with glue stick is you want to get it on there really thick, and then also the burnishing it down to make sure that you have great adhesion all the way through, that there's no air pockets or anything. This piece goes on the center back. It would be nice if I had inked it up first, but I forgot. It's not that big of a deal. After I get it glued down, I can go over and ink it with my inking tool. It's not the first time it happens. I get so interested in trying to stay on track with my filming that sometimes I forget the little details like inking things up. And I'll just show you how that's done here in case that happens to you. You wanted to ink it. It's not too late. Just made sure I had ink on the edge of my blending tool, which is getting shabby and kind of falling apart. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video. Little pieces of it are crumbling off onto my table. I want to get every last little bit of use out of it before it moves on. There we go. That's looking pretty good. I think we're ready to move on to the next step. The next piece that we want is, I'm going to skip decorating the pockets because we want to use scraps. And we don't have many scraps yet. So we're just going to skip that and return to that section later. Let's start decorating the photo mats. That part's really fun, I think. So let me get out my fanciful floral. And we'll want 4 3.5 by 4.5 inch pockets, or pieces for the cards in the diagonal pockets. We'll use these on the photo mats that go in the diagonal pockets. Let me get some of these pulled out so I can see what we're going to need. And now that I think about it, I don't have any of my cut-aparts ready. I'm going to go take the 3 pages that had cut-aparts on them, get them all cut out, and then circle back here and meet you. You want to get a thin line of glue if possible. Mine was actually a little bit clogged, so when it first came out, it was kind of thick. So I just grabbed some with my finger and then share that with the bottom edge there. I'm asking you in advance, please forgive me for my dirty fingers. I just sat there and filmed this from start to beginning to end. So my fingers just get more and more dirty with glue as it progresses. Before the very end, I can't take it anymore. I stop and I go wash my hands. It was a few hours of filming here. So finally about an hour, hour and a half in, I did stop and wash my hands. There it is. There's the one we want. And then I'll need my tag top punch to do that. Let me go get that and come back. I'll need my tab punch to make tabs for this. You don't actually need it, but I love using mine. So I've paused the camera and gotten that so I can punch it out. And I'm just going to finish off these scraps. I actually only need one, but I'm just going to finish off the scrap with the punch, and then I can throw the rest of it into the paper recycling. There we go. Ready to go. So I like to use a little tab on the edge of that card that we're going to tuck into the pocket. You don't have to. You could also just punch a little hole in it and tie a piece of ribbon to pull it out with if you wanted. I just think it looks nice, and it's an excuse to use my tab punch. So here's this piece. And then I see we had a mat on the other piece, so I dug through my scraps, and it's probably the same thing I did last time. There's a piece that's just the right size once I trim the border off of it, and we'll use that. So the first piece we glue down so the flowers are up, and then the second piece we glue down so that the yellow and orange checks are up. I love graphic45 papers. They're my favorite scrapbooking paper company. Just the designers and people that make the decisions there must be kindred spirits, because the colors are fun and exciting. I feel like their papers are designed for adults. They're not, I don't feel like I'm creating a child's birthday card when I'm making this. Not that I couldn't make something for a child. It doesn't feel exclusively, childlike. There's an artistic flair to everything that they do that I really appreciate. Okay. So I was just measuring that piece. It's approximately 2.5 by 3.5. I was just going to make note of using that scrap in the instructions. I make note of it on the wrong section, so actually that goes higher up in the instructions. But I figure all that out. You get to see a little bit of inside, what happens inside. I was just burnishing that down with the bottom of the glue stick there, the floral one. And then I'm going to use my fancy corner rounder to give it some fun corners and ink it up. I didn't ink the other one up and it looks good, so either way is fine. Again, back with a glue stick. I do go through the glue sticks. I just had to order another case of 60 glue sticks. I keep a shoebox size clear container with the glue sticks in them, and then grab them out by the handfuls. Depends on what I'm doing, of course. When I'm doing projects like this, I'll really burn through it, making cards and tags, things like that. And then for the card for the other diagonal pocket, it's got the black cat on it. Let me shuffle through my little stack here and see if I can find that one. I think I tried to get ready and then it just made it harder to find things than if I just left them in little stacks by size, probably. But that's okay. So I don't have enough fanciful floral left over to mat this card the same way I did before. So I go and I find another scrap. This is the reverse side of the cover. It just means I'll have less of this to mat pockets with, which is what I did in the first place. But that's fine. It still looks really good, and unless you have them side by side, you wouldn't notice the tiny differences. But if you're just making this and you haven't already used up half of your papers, or slightly more than half of your papers, then you'll be good to go. The good news is there was papers that I didn't use at all the first time, and I had 2 each, of those left. So we have no problem making 2 of these with 1 set of papers for sure. I've proven that and the week 1 project. And then when I make the junk journal for week 3, we'll hopefully use up the rest of it. All the rest of the cut aparts and as much of the scrapbooking paper as looks good in our project. This glue stick's getting down to the bottom. I just went through the end of 2 glue sticks in just a few seconds there. So I'll just use my glue bottle until I need to get up for something. And then I'll go grab some more glue sticks. And then just burnish that down really good. Spread the glue around in there. And then put the cat card down. I just felt like it looked better matted there than it does not matted. And I cut it out a little haphazardly, so I'm going to trim that down so that black border is more even around the edge. Again, if you want to ink your stuff, you want to ink this before you glue it down. I'm better about doing that when I'm not filming. There we go. The front half is done. And the back half is just going to be solid color. We could go either side. I think I'm going to leave the floral on top. I like that fanciful floral. I think about it and then stick with the plan. So there we go. This one's done. We can set it aside, and then we have the 3 cards that go in the rectangular pockets that we'll make next. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to cut 6 3.5 by 4.5 inch pieces for mechanical marvels to mat the front and back of these 3. I call them photo mats. They could also be journaling cards. We'll also be using the Madame Macabre, Macabre, sorry. The Madame Macabre cut apart, the So Very cut apart, and the Steampunk Spells clock cut apart. The Beetlejuice and Howlet Wings cut aparts I added to the same pocket on the original one. So we want to cut this mechanical marvels to 3.5 by 4.5. We need 6 of them. So once we get these all cut out, it's actually pretty simple because we just do half of them with the wings side up on one side and the orange side up on the other. What I've done is, since it's just patterned on one side, is I look to find the 3 orange pieces I like the best, and then the other 3 I use as patterns. So you'll see me look through them, or you won't. It looks like this video is going to be about an hour, so I went ahead and cut that out. It was an hour and a half, so I'm going to try to cut an hour of footage out of here, and that was some of it. Me gluing those down. And then here's the images that we'll mat on top. The Madame Macabre, So Very, and Steampunk Spells with the little clock on it. My fingers are pretty sticky right about now in the video. I'm going to put that one back away now that we've made our copy of it. We'll make the Madame Macabre one next. Yeah, now I'm just being lazy using my wet glue. The glue stick would have been perfectly fine here. Maybe better. I think I remember that, and also that I'm running low on glue. And like, this is no time. You need to save this for gluing pockets and things like that. Pop-up cards. Move those out of the way. Let those sit aside to dry. I think it's fun assembling it this way, starting on the cover, working on the cards, the photo mats, and then going back to decorating the cover. And then when we're done decorating the cover, all the photo mats and everything are done and ready to fill inside the pockets. So now that we have our photo mat journaling cards done, it's time to get back to the cover. And we're going to use Pumpkin Power. Originally, I'd used Fanciful Floral, but I'd used up too much of it, as I mentioned earlier, so we'll be using Pumpkin Power. We need 2 5 by 5.5 inch pieces of either Fanciful Floral or Pumpkin Power, and 2 4 by 4.5 inch pieces cut from black card to layer on top of that. And those were pieces I accidentally cut wrong earlier, and then just adjusted the description to include that mistake size, which we use here. It looks nicer than the size I'd originally cut, those 2 smaller ones. So, yep, that's right. I just measure it so I can update the instructions with the size we're using. I think that'll look good. I'll ink everything up and get it glued down, and we'll circle back around here. It was on upside down. Boy, that glue dries fast. That's okay, though. I just ripped it up really quickly. I'm glad I noticed. We could have used that orange stripe side as well, but I tried to keep the color profile the same. Sometimes when I make those kinds of changes later, I really regret it. So the Fanciful Floral has a lot of blue. This has a lot of blue. And I'm just using the back of my glue stick to burnish it down. Although I can see a scoring tool within easy reach, but whatever. There we go, using the bottom of my glue stick again. It is my favorite burnishing tool. Doesn't look as nice as the bone folder, but just referring back to what I had done before. I have to do that quite a bit because, again, I'd made this the prototype or the sample project about a month ago, maybe more than a month ago. And then in the meantime, I've made other tutorials and other things. So this center back here had the cat one made into a pocket. I'll put it up so we can see. I'll get both of these up together so that we can see them side by side while we're working in just a second here. Or maybe not in just a second, but at some point I get the other one opened and this one layered on top of it in a way that we can see them both and more easily copy. So I like having the title on top, and that'll be the thing we pull out of the pocket. So I grabbed this scrap of black cardstock from my pile of scraps and just cut a piece of it off. It's 3 inches wide, and I cut it about 2.5 inches. But you can see I just held it up to what I thought looked good. Forget measuring, although I think I did measure and write that down in the instructions for you all. And then what do we want to do next? Okay, so we used a sticker layered on some cardstock to make a tuck spot there. Let's go through the stickers and see what we want to use. This is hard. Oh, I don't know. I think this one will look nice. The blue stripe one I liked better, but it was too close to the blue background. So we'll pick this one and then use my fun ticket punch corner on my corner rounder. Give it some fun shape. And just a tiny little strip of glue across the top to make a tuck spot. The next step in our instructions are for the flap up piece that flaps up, folds up 2 different times. We're going to start with witching hour. We'll need 2 pieces cut 4 3/4 by 5.5. We'll be using the pale side. And here's where we have to veer off from the written instructions because I didn't remember that image is also on the cover and that there was a 3rd image and I'd already used 2. So if you have it, you want to cut down the cover image to 3.5 by 4.5 inches in the same way that we did for the cover of the folio. We use that for the cover of the flap up. But since I've already used that, I'm thinking I will use a journaling card and do something with that. And ultimately what I figure out, see how I have them side by side now? So we can glue this into a pocket shape. But ultimately what I figure out for that one piece is we're going to make a pocket there and we'll need a tag. But instead we're just going to move on with what we know to do. And that's this. That's using this beware, cut apart, glued in a U shape to make a right-facing pocket. And you can see where I used the orange side of the mechanical marvels to mat that shorter piece. Use the same technique on Miss I'm Afraid, where we cut her name off the bottom, glue it to the top, and then use part of the scrap to hide it and reinforce it as a card. Makes it a nice photo mat, that black spot. Or if you had a white pen for writing, I just think it looks nicer. I like it. All right, because we cut ahead to where I figured out that this pile of scraps look like they're just the right size for this. There's one that might be a little bit long, but the rest of them look just about perfect. So yeah, we have our pick of these to use. You pick whichever ones that you like from your little scrap pile. If you don't end up with any scraps, it's 1.5 by 4 3/4 inches for all but the, I call it the long pocket. It's the one that's inside the far right flap out. When you fold it all the way out to the right, there's a pocket that we scored into there. That's called the long pocket. So you have a piece to decorate that. And then I'll show you a tip on how I did the piece for above the diagonal pocket. That's quite the trick. We start with a 4 3/4 by 5 1/4 inch piece, and then I bend it into the shape that we need, and then use those scores to cut it to side. But I'll show you here in just a second. I've sped up, adding our little scraps to the pocket. This is where I realize I need that measurement for this pocket. Our scraps aren't quite going to work. So I just cut down another scrap, make it slightly more narrow, a hair shorter. Update my instructions with the size that pocket needs, or the decoration for that pocket needs to be. Again, you're getting all the updated measurements. You can see that instruction sheet's a bit of a mess now. Okay. So now we'll cut the piece to do the diagonal pocket. As I said before, it's a 4 3/4 inch square from TikTok. I don't know what you're thinking while I'm sitting here gluing this down, but I can tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, why aren't I using glue stick? I'm almost out of glue. I feel like I'm being really wasteful with this, with my Art Glitter brand glue, knowing that I've got like a teaspoon of it left. And a custom order I'd love to get in the mail tomorrow. Okay, we're ready to cut the piece for above the pocket. 2 pieces that are 4 3/4 by 5 1/4. And if you just nest it in the pocket, thusly, I folded it down at the top with the margin of border I wanted at the top, and then fold it over at the edge of the pocket where it meets the edge of the pocket. And now I have a little pattern I can cut. I want to cut inside those score lines so that my piece is slightly smaller than where I want it to go. I definitely don't want it to be slightly bigger. And then we can use that same piece instead of measuring or planning. We can use it as a template. I just want to make sure it's going the right way on that other piece that we cut. So instead of planning and measuring now or folding, I'm just going to use that as a template to make this one sure it's right side up and the correct size. There we go. Now we have 2 pieces ready to, and look at me, go to town with that glue. Amy, what are you thinking? I've lost my mind. I've obviously totally forgotten that I'm running out of glue, and I'm just going hog wild with it. Acting like I have a full 16-ounce bottle of glue or something sitting on the standby. I don't. Whatever's left in this little dispenser that you can see, that's it. That's all I have until Wednesday. I think I said before it's Monday when I'm doing the voiceover here. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is above the rectangular pockets. Okay, you want to cut 2 from Totally Wicked that are 5 1/2 inches wide by 3 inches tall. I try to always give the width first and then the height, and since this is directional, it matters. A lot of the other papers didn't matter. I had written it down wrong, and this is what happens. I have a 3 1/2 inch wide piece that's not going to fit that at all. So I just measure it to double check my instructions, because at this point, I'm like, what the heck? There's been a lot of editing on this sheet today. Normally, there's 1 or 2 tiny changes, and that's it. But as I said, I improved it after the fact and forgot to make note. That's all. Okay, so now that I've adjusted that, it's 5 1/2 inches wide by 3 inches tall. We need 2 of those. Cut from this paper with the owl sides to go above our little gusseted pockets. And then the one pocket, I call it the long pocket that we made from scoring, we'll be using a 5 1/2 by 3 1/2 inch piece for wishing hour. That pocket's more narrow, so the piece that goes above it needs to be a little bit taller. I remember to ink these up. It's about time. And then I go back and after the fact kind of try to ink up the edges. Now that we have that done, we need to decorate the pockets. I used some of the stickers to decorate the pockets. We don't have any border stickers, so we'll be using Dresden trim for that. You could also use trim cut with die cuts if you had them. That looks similar to the Dresden trim. You could use lace, rickrack. You could just leave it not trimmed out. I think it looks pretty nice just like it is there. We can add our cards to the pocket too, our photo mats. The bones one goes in that diagonal pocket. Oh, we still need to make that. Let's look and see what we have. I initially think maybe it's a cut apart that I used to make that, but it wasn't. So instead, I'll look and see what I have that might be worthy of being a centerpiece here. I grab a piece that's a little bit too big and make it kind of a flap out that we glue into a pocket shape to make it more interesting, and then put something cool in the pocket. Again, I just grabbed one of the tags that I made in the previous week, and it looks like if I fold the owl in, you know, I wonder, yeah, we'll just fold the owl in and then glue it into a pocket. That's just the thing. Off we go. This is what I need the glue for. Glue stick would have worked perfectly fine when I'm gluing the entire piece of paper to paper. Okay, we want some little stickers to put down the side of this pocket. I used a few of those on the other one. I just have one left. I have a couple other square stickers here, these two. I'll add those to my pocket. Let's add some ephemera to those pockets that we decorated. And this one here. So it almost fits. But we need it to be really tight and we don't want it to fall out. So you'll see I'll trim just a hair off one side. And that's not quite enough. And then I'll trim that same hair off of the other side. I don't want to have to re-round my corners. You might want to wait to round your corners so you get it trimmed to size. Now it fits nice and snug in there, and it won't be falling out. And we can decorate the front of that pocket flap. Now it fits really snug in that pocket, and it's not going to come flying out when we lift the flap up. We need one to mat onto cardstock to make another tuck spot. And I think I like that bird, but it's too matchy-matchy. Once I put it on a black border, it wouldn't be, so I could have totally used that. But instead, we'll use this one with the clock with the blue border. And I'll just trim it down on this scrap. And then again, use my fun corner rounder with the ticket shape. Or nope, the scalloped shape. And glue that just on the top. Or the side, the right-hand side of it. And then we created a tuck spot for some ephemera there. Let's just trim down some of these other cut aparts and add those to pockets. They could be used as photo mats, or someone could journal on them about their photos. Like to put something in the tuck spot so people can see that that's what it is. Ideally, you'd put your photo and tuck your photo under there. So it's just a placeholder. You can add it to one of the pockets later. I think maybe those, but they're just too small. If they get pushed down too far in the pockets, you'll have a hard time getting it back out of the pocket. So like I said before, I'll just use the tag from the week 1 video and we'll come back and take a final look. One last thing. We still get to decorate and everything too. What am I talking about? So I grabbed one of the chipboard buttons and I'm using this piece of ribbon through the holes and I'm trying to get it into a tiny little bow there. With one tail. It's fighting me. I get it done. I just pause the camera, get it done, and glue it to the front of the closure. And that's the tag that I grabbed from the week 1 project that I'll tuck in the pocket. I think we're ready to trim it out and to add some Stickles glitter. The Stickles brand glitter. It's like the chameleon of glitter, this one. It comes in a 3-pack. It's like the price of 1 bottle of glitter. It comes in a 3-pack with both gold and silver, which are also great colors once this one's gone. Either one of those would look good on this project. I like to use it to make things stand out, so I'm picking the jewelry, the edges of the hat. Felt like those glasses didn't stand out enough. And if you have some little tiny paper flowers, I'll be using some small paper flowers. I'm just going to reinforce that closure where I glued mine together with glue stick and then didn't let it dry. I pulled it apart. So I've got glitter on the wings, a little bit of glitter on the bodice of her dress. This is my last bottle of that, and it's running a little low. So I just grabbed some burgundy and a purple flower, just like I'd done before, and add those to the cover. I have these, they call them stickers, these faux gem stickers, and I used 2 of the small ones on either side and one of the slightly bigger ones in the center. And I should be using the tool. My fingers are so dirty, it wanted to stick to my fingers. Then I also have this Dresden trim that I thought we could use to trim out the top. Some black crocheted lace would be good there as well. If you had it, or it was fine the way it was, you know, you don't have to. I just don't know when to stop now. I don't stop until I love it, and I liked it, but I wasn't loving it yet. Now I'm starting to love it. Why make it good when you can make it great? So I think this diagonal pocket, to my mind, needs something here. So I'm going to add some of this black Dresden trim to this diagonal pocket. And I think the pocket to the right would look nice. And I added a piece there. If I had more of the black, I might have used the black there as well. This is a smaller, narrower strip. The smaller piece of trim is nice. And I like the way the black and gold looks with the orange and black Halloween. I have another diagonal pocket on the inside. We'll use this black trim again here. I ordered this from an Etsy shop. There's our little pocket with the flap. Ideally, that piece would be longer and go from end to end, but I'm determined to use these scraps if possible, and then I won't have to keep track of them. Although I'm miserly with this trim, so I will keep even anything an inch or bigger. I'll keep. If it's smaller than an inch, I might throw it out. Most likely, I would just find a way to use it. Really, I make those tiny little 2-inch blocks. I decorate those, but even for those, I use a 2-inch strip. So I was finding a place where I might be able to use that trim. I think it looks nice without it. Okay, here's the original and here's the finished one. I think we should go ahead and take a look at it, at our project that we made together. I think it's nice. It's at least as nice as the other one. I really do like those sticker borders. You could, of course, add more ephemera. I just tucked some of those cut aparts in the tuck spots. Ideally, you would put a photo or something there. That was our tag from the week 1 project. You need to pull that out to do the flip up because the tag's pretty tall. And here's our snug little journaling card. A few more cut aparts. Place for a photo tucked under there. Pocket in the middle there behind the cat. Don't forget to put that tag back. And there it is. I love how it came out. I hope you do too. Please like, subscribe, share the channel with anyone you think might enjoy the content, and tag me in your project if you make something inspired by this video. I'd love to see what you made. Thanks again, and have a great day.